Hello, I'm Stephen Matchett from Campus Morning Mail, and this is Expert Opinion, where we ask people who know what's going on in education, what's going on. Expert Opinion is brought to you by Twig Marketing, Australia's original higher ed marketing consultancy. Got a brand issue or a message that isn't getting out? Talk to Tim Winkler. Tim@twigmarketing, that's one word, .com. And thanks to producer Amanda Johnson from Twig, who makes Expert Opinion happen. It's been a month of shock and awe as university communities deal with GPT-4, which goes the whole Betty Hutton compared to predecessor ChatGPT. But the focus in what 4 can do is on research and training. The impact on teaching, not so much, which might make it be a case of not facing the frightening. Researchers from Monash U's Centre for Learning Analytics have tested GPT-4 on providing student feedback, and they say it does okay. And 4 has a Socratic teaching function, which the Khan Academy is already testing. So what does that mean for teaching and for teachers? Michael Sankey has more than a few ideas. Professor Sankey is Charles Darwin U's Director of Learning Futures, and he's the lead education architect. And he's also president of the Australasian Council on Open Distance and E-Learning. Hello, Michael. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Stephen. Lovely to be here.
In March, Michael, you wrote in CMM, one thing is for sure, AI is not going away. And as higher education institutions embrace this thought, they can become, as they always have been, the convener of a productive future. Well, good-o, but it does rather appear to me that discussions in general with regard to teaching are about how to make AI conform and work in with existing ways of doing things when the reverse could already be happening.
Yeah, so the main problem with ChatGPT and other AI engines, very similar to that, is that they will give you the information you want, without a doubt. So it's not a matter of the fact that, you know, some of it might be wrong, most of it will be right. It's what fundamentally has to change is the way we think about how we use information. So if we continue to get our students to do quizzes, write essays, write reports, those machines can do that perfectly well and are doing it really well for many people in business and in industry. So that's what it's there for. It's actually there to give us information. It's how we use that information to make it possible to then extend. So my dream, I suppose, is that we treat our students as productive beings, not empty vessels waiting to be filled. So if we can actually get them to use that information to extend knowledge, which is what they're at university for, to learn and extend, so they can actually be productive by the time they come out of university. And so our employers don't say, oh, well, you're bloody, your students aren't employable because they don't know how to do things. Well, sure, but let's get them doing things that with this information to actually extend knowledge. Most of us want to do that. Most students want to do that. There's nothing worse than the boring lectures they sit through.
There's an interesting challenge there when you've got a technology that we know can teach things that are testable. I mean, when they, with GPT-3, they used the example of it teaching differential equations, and it would walk you through your mistakes, etc., etc. That's surely going to have a lot of applications in technical craft-based skills.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are literally hundreds of these AI engines out there doing all kinds of different things. So, you know, there's image generating ones, there's the code writing ones, there's the language transformers. There are hundreds of these things, and they're in all walks of life. So it's not just education they're affecting, it's actually every walk of life they're affecting. It's involved in space travel. It's involved in, dare I say, robo-debt. No, I won't say that. It's involved in all kinds of things, but therein, AI doesn't always get it right.
Yeah,
it can only work with what it can grab hold of, and what they can grab hold of is anything. You know how many weirdos are out in that web? It can grab that stuff and make things out of that, which sound legitimate. So there is still a place for the academic to provide that rigor across that, but it's just going to be more difficult to do that now. But we have been a little bit slow in making the shift away from our our traditional forms of assessment, because it's actually a little bit difficult, because most academics learnt in the way they teach. So they have actually no concept of what it means to do different types of assessment, which is why it's so important. That's why we're seeing the rise of, educational developers and designers and things coming again, where, for a few years, 10 years back, the growth wasn't there, but now it's coming, it's right back. So we're seeing the co-design and partnership now models starting to emerge through different universities, which has been very, very proactive and positive about this. So, but it takes a while to transform assessment. So it's all tied up with accreditation and things like that. Yeah. So we've got to change those accreditations to then, get them approved and all kinds of things.
But micro-credentials, MOOCs, it seems to me that entrepreneurs who have their own courses but have now got a new technology to teach them, which will be a good deal cheaper than people. Yeah, but you still need people to mediate it. I mean, the ChatGPT is like a textbook on steroids. And it's no different to going to the library search pages we used to go to and putting in our Boolean searches, and it pulled in all the articles with all the information we needed. Essentially, that's what it's doing. It's looking through all the sources of information and just giving us what we're looking for. So there's not that much difference. It's just it's actually smarter now because it writes it for us. And so, but in writing it for us, there's that level of discernment that we need to teach our students to use and our lecturers to use, because lecturers can use it just as easy as students to create their materials, as you're suggesting. They can, and they can create beautiful materials and create rubrics and all kinds of marking rubrics and things like that. I mean, you can write something and put it into ChatGPT and ask if that's a good rendition of it, and it'll tell you. But of course, that's where we are now. I mean, what do you think, insofar as you can tell, what are going to be the sorts of areas that educational entrepreneurs are going to be looking at?
Educational entrepreneurs, so the largest market money-wise for entrepreneurs is in the postgrad market. There's not much money in undergrad students or vet and things like that. So it's mostly in the postgrad market, and it's through the short courses, professional development courses that they might do, the upskilling of a nurse or a teacher or an engineer. And so, and that's what their professional associations want. They want these people to keep up to date, and they have to do so many, PD points in a year to do that. So there's money there to be made by people, and of course by universities. And in many senses, the entrepreneur, and I don't want to stereotype it too much, doesn't have the same rigor put over them as somebody who's like a higher education institution or a TAFE college that have accreditation processes they go through and have to be accredited to run a nursing program, an education program. So there's always a sense that the university is running things in a more quality way, but quality is not necessarily what people want all the time. They want to be able to do their PD, get their 10 points so they can go on and just do their work. So there is certainly money to be made there. And ChatGPT and tools like that, other AI generating tools, will help the entrepreneur who can harness that to create ways for professional staff to upskill. Now, all they have to do is, I mean, it's quite insidious, really. I mean, they test these students by doing quizzes and things like that. So, anybody can take questions from a quiz and put them into ChatGPT and get the answers. So, I think some other regulation is going to have to come in around professional development courses that are for credit and people pay for. That will come.
I'm wondering whether in vet and higher ed, teaching intensive institutions, whether there are potential to, if you like, automate a bunch of stuff to create more time for academics to do really much more intensive people-focused teaching.
Yeah, I think where we can help our teachers is actually helping them with their marking and things like that, as opposed to generating new knowledge, because you always need that interpretation of knowledge that is from a genuine, like a recognised source of truth. And that academic, at this point at least, is that genuine source of truth. However, it is in those more mundane activities that I think the university can really start to get some runs on the board. We're all under pressure. We're all under, we've seen the marking budgets for our university courses shrink and shrink and shrink. And so we're asking our casuals and our sessional staff to do much more with much less. And so if we can harness ChatGPT to help these people do their job quicker, it's got to be a good thing.
Could that not lead to a problem where people were skewing what assessment tools to use a cheaper technology than people?
No, because I think that's where this is where I come back to that point about being productive. So if we're just going to get students to replicate information or to regurgitate information they've learned, yeah, that would be the case. But if we're going to turn our thinking around and say, okay, well, I've got a group of engineering students here, and I want them to work on this project, and it's a real world project. And there's solutions to that project that we don't necessarily know yet. But if they can do that and actually come up with the solutions, wow, I think there's winners on all sides there.
Yeah, I think that's the point, that if you can create ways to make more time available through that by, if you like, automating the more beginning in basics.
Yes, that's spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah. Does anyone really have a sense? I mean, is there an institution in Australia that really is starting to work towards a strategy on this, or is everybody still pretty bewildered?
Many of us are still like the rabbit in the spotlight. We are getting there. So I think we're seeing, University of Sydney, for example, is doing some good work. Danny's doing some great work there and providing some great resources. Flinders is doing some good work. I saw just today, actually. And Deacon's got some good work happening as well. I mean, we're getting there. We're not there yet because of this kind of lag. We weren't quick enough. I mean, we've known about this coming since November last year, but it does take time to actually get these things through our systems. And let's face it, most of our academics are off on holiday till February anyway, so they didn't really engage with it till they came back.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, people are still talking about 3, and that has GPT-3, and that's now pretty much been superseded by the Mark IV.
Yeah. It's when as people like the Microsofts and our learning management systems and things like that start to take on how they use GPT-4 and its successive generations, as they start to hone their activities to actually work that into assessment opportunities for students, I think we'll start to see that emerging over the next. I know most LMSs have got it on the roadmap for their development, how they're going to use it. I mean, we already see it with Bing and things like that, where you would have noticed the change in your search engines already. We put a search term in and it gives you essentially AI information as you would get from ChatGPT as the first thing it finds.
Yeah, but of course that raises another question that a lot of people don't seem to have grasped, that these are very large investments by for-profit companies.
Absolutely.
And they're going to be looking for returns. Everything is just not going to be sitting out there for free.
No, absolutely. They'll suck us all in and then want to charge us. Absolutely. Apple did that to me with their iStore,
Yeah. But then I start to wonder that as everything starts to grow exponentially, whether not so much imitators, but alternative delivery systems are going to start appearing. You can see that happening in research now.
Yeah. And I think that's, if I was an LMS provider right this minute, I'd actually be very worried because why? And there are so many values out there now that can be, the things that can be done, kind of makes the old quiz engine and discussion forum, all that kind of thing within the traditional LMS quite passé. And so as we move away from some of those traditional ways of assessing and providing information, so the need for having a machine to help us do that, a piece of software to do that, actually minimizes. And so, I mean, many people disagree with me, but that's where Microsoft have been quite smart. I mean, they're really looking at different ways to hook up here and to use the generative AI within their systems. You know, you can do a Teams meeting now, and the AI will and give you the notes. So it's not just the transcription, but it'll give you a summary of all the things that happened, the points. Now we could use that in learning and teaching. We do a tutorial with our students, and then that's next thing, the student gets the summary of the tutorial. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. It is interesting to see what, I mean, we all think it's education is absolutely core, but of course it's almost peripheral to most of these guys in terms of where the money's going to be. But you wonder whether there are going to be, as the software starts to become generic, whether there are going to be for the learning the LMS community a whole bunch of opportunities to create.
I don't think it's going to become generic. I think we already see that in so many other systems. I mean, in Australia, we use 4 major learning management systems, Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, and Desire to Learn. So, and there are a whole range of other softwares and competitors wanting to get in on that market. So I don't think, and it's going to be the same with AI entrepreneurs. I mean, everybody will want to create their own with their own unique flavors and things like that. And we're already seeing hundreds of them out there. So I don't think it's going to stratify. I think it's actually going to diversify the market.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's exactly what I meant. I'm sorry, I must have used the wrong words. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is like radio in the 1930s when the first sets were sealed and you got whatever station you got, and it took 10 years before it became an open market. And indeed, the same with the internet. Absolutely.
Yep.
And we are now. It's I mean,
we still can't find anything to watch.
But there are infinite variations of it. So what would you be saying now to well, you are a DVC, but what would you be saying to your peers as to what to start thinking about strategically for an institution?
So I did a post up on Twitter and LinkedIn about a week ago, and I said one of my dreams is that we actually can give our lecturers maybe just half a day a month out in industry, so they can look at where their students are getting employment afterwards, and just half a day a month, just go into one employer or be in touch with them and go and see what the students are doing at the other end. And so they start to get a sense of, oh, okay, there's this massive world. So they've come through a particular pathway. They might have worked in a particular business and have that kind of business and pathway in mind. But as there are so many different professions, we see that there is the opportunity for our teaching staff to, in a sense, get their own professional development happening by way of just getting out there for half a day and just talking to the people who are taking our students on. I mean, that's my dream, so that we can take those things, so they have this kind of meta understanding of what they're doing, not just an understanding based on what they've experienced themselves. So, I mean, that might be pie in the sky, but for half a day a month, and you'd get 11 visits a year, so that lecturer would get into 11 places. I mean, I know here there'd be 11 businesses that our lecturers could go and visit for every subject we do.
Tim Carr, the research analytics guy, said to me a few weeks ago that he's aware of situations where the AI is starting to suggest patents, not just write the patent, but suggest things to patent. Now, you wonder whether, with enough time and enough data and enough direction, whether there are going to be developments in ways of teaching that we can't see yet.
I hope so. I mean, if we can get better patents written because the machine is helping us, fantastic. If we can get better teaching because of this machine, well, fantastic. Because not every teacher is a great teacher, unfortunately. So if it can help us in our teaching, well, more power to us, I reckon.
Where do you think we'll be in 5 years?
Well, I know where I'll be. No, so will we be in 5 years? I think we will have come to terms with the very fast evolving nature of this. We will be kind of. I'm an optimist, so I do see us riding the wave. I don't see it being dumped. I do see us riding the wave and keeping going with this and actually helping it to grow. We need to see our institutions partner with these AI companies, not just be a subject of these AI companies. And so the more institutions, and essentially it's going to be the larger American institutions that can partner with these people. I mean, that's where these students went. That's where these guys who are developing this stuff went to school. They learned this stuff at university. They didn't come up with it themselves. AI is something that was generated within the academic community. And so we need to partner back with these people to actually make sure we can harness that for good.
That is a really interesting point. And an economy the size of Australia's, is it a national effort that's needed, that through an umbrella organisation of some sort speaking for the system?
Yeah. So most of these are coming out of the States and out of Europe at this point. There's some movement in Australia, but I do think that the government needs to be on the front foot with this. I think it's caught them by complete surprise. Although Coldrake, admittedly, even as early as I think March last year, was warning institutions that this was coming.
Yeah, so, he was largely focused on cheating and
exactly right.
plagiarism. Well, seems to me we've gone way beyond that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, these cheating sites, the Chegs and the Horse Heroes and things, they've been using AI for years, which is how they can guarantee that the stuff they produce will get past, turn it in, and things like that. Yeah.
So who should do that? Is that a job for a code to put together the leadership or propose it?
No, I think it's actually I think it's Universities of Australia or the DVCAs. I don't. ACODE is not at that level. I mean, it's all the directors and of technology enhanced learning. So we can help with that, and we can help with the benchmarking of that and what other institutions are doing. But it does actually take. So the recent survey we did find that the majority of institutions, the initiatives being led were from the DVCAs and Es. So they are getting their heads around it. It does, and there is this lag time, of course, but I think they are the ones, the provosts and the DVCs, who will need to drive these initiatives across the sector.
Well, someone's going to have to write a call to arms.
Yeah, and there are so many different voices at the moment. Exactly right. There.
Yeah. I was looking at.
It could be it could be a combination of groups that do a call to arms. Absolutely. And it needs the logic. So it's one thing to have a call of arms. It's another thing to have the convincing argument. And I think we're slowly gathering enough information to create an argument. But the argument is not to hold back in any way. It's actually how we're going to apprehend and work with.
I mean, look, maybe everything slows down for a while. I don't know, but it seems to me at the moment we're running on two parallel tracks, and one's moving the technology is moving much faster than the governance and the pedagogy. Yeah,
it seems to at the moment. I was at the Theta conference this week, and there was a futurist talking, and he was talking about this being the second Renaissance. Well, actually, I think it's the third Renaissance, because we had the Renaissance, which was about knowledge. We then had the internet, which I see as probably the second Renaissance, and I see this as the third Renaissance in this. And so it's as knowledge becomes ubiquitous and accessible to the extent that it is, opens up. And we saw, in the Renaissance, the original Renaissance, the Da Vinci's and people like that, just opened people's minds to what was possible. And the internet did that as well. And, it spurned the dark web and all kinds of horrible things. But this is the next major attraction. And of course, these things, as we progress knowledge, I mean, the internet, we can trace the growth in information worldwide, how information doubles and doubles and doubles. Well, as soon as the internet came along, it kind of really sped up. This is going to speed it up even more. So it's that kind of curve going up to the moon. When
I first was shown a very primitive internet, I entered something that interested me greatly in to see what happened, and I got a very slow download of about a page and a half of third level information.
Yeah.
I asked the chat. I asked GPT the first question, the same question. I remembered it roughly when I did it,
Oh, yeah.
and it gave me nothing brilliant, but a 2,500 word paper addressing the issue I'd raised.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was perfectly competent,
Absolutely.
and,
Yeah.
and it took it about 90 seconds. It's
And one of the things it does is write stuff really well. Very readable. Yeah.
which is pretty scary stuff.
Absolutely.
Michael Sankey, I thank you for your time. I know you've been busy down in Brisbane this week. Come back and talk to us again. I hope and do it soon.
Pleasure. Love to.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Take care.
Okay, mate. Bye.